Good morning, I'm Gary DeWaal, and this is Bridging the Week for May 13th to 17th, and today is May 20th, 2019. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission determined not to object to a rule amendment by ICE Futures US to impose speed bumps on certain orders entered in two futures contracts traded on the exchange. Separately, the Futures Industries Joint Audit Committee reiterated prior guidance that a futures commission merchant may not guarantee customers against losses or pay out funds from any individual account of a customer where the payout would leave the aggregate of accounts of the customer under-margined. Moreover, Jack strongly suggested FCMs take certain immediate actions to comply with its guidances with the implicit suggestion, or else. This is the last edition of Bridging the Week before the unofficial start of summer on Memorial Day. So I may pack my bags to return to the mountains of Colorado for a short break. Let's get started. The CFTC determined not to object to a new rule amendment by ICE Futures US authorizing the exchange to implement delays or speed bumps in the time between new aggressor orders that might otherwise execute against resting passive orders. The rule amendments were self-certified by IFIS with a representation that its so-called passive order protection or POP functionality would initially be applied solely in the exchange's gold daily and silver daily futures contracts and involve speed bumps of 3 milliseconds. However, the language of the actual rule amendment does not reference any specific futures contracts or speed bump time periods. Notwithstanding, in recommending non-objection of IFIS's amended rule by the CFTC, the Commission's Division of Market Oversight indicated that its views were limited to IFIS's implementation of POP functionality only for gold and silver contracts and using a 3 millisecond speed bump. The Division of Market Oversight expects potential application of POP functionality to any other IFIS-listed futures contract to be preceded by separate self-certifications. Under the speed bump functionality, a trader entering an order, for example, an offer, and letting it rest in IFIS's central limit order book could cancel the order if another order was entered into the marketplace that otherwise would match against the resting order, for example, a bid. The trader with the resting order would have up to the time of the speed bump to assess the new order and pull the resting order prior to execution against the new order. If the resting order was pulled, the new order would remain in the marketplace. Pursuant to the amended relevant rule, the speed bump functionality could be activated at any time in IFIS's sole discretion. According to IFIS, the purpose of its new speed bump functionality is, quote, to encourage additional market participants who may not otherwise trade certain exchange markets due to a latency disadvantage to participate in trading such products, end of quote. Two commissioners expressed reservation regarding IFIS's amended rule, Brian Quintens and Dan Berkovitz. Mr. Quintens questioned how penalizing those who have innovated by introducing higher speeds into marketplaces promotes the objectives of CFTC Core Principle 9 for designated contract markets. This provision requires a board of trade seeking DCM status to provide, quote, a competitive, open, and efficient market and mechanism for executing transactions, end of quote. Mr. Berkovitz likewise questioned how speed bumps, which he claimed were a material anti-competitive burden for at least some market participants, help promote, quote, responsible innovation and fair competition, end of quote, among market participants, which he claimed was an obligation of the CFTC to consider in evaluating DCM new rules. The Futures Industry Joint Audit Committee issued two reminders to Future Commission merchants last week. One regarding the prohibition against making guarantees against loss contained in a rule of the CFTC, and the other mandating aggregation of all accounts of the same beneficial owner for the same regulatory account classifications, for example, customer segregated, customer secured, and clear swaps customer, for margin purposes, as previously advised by Jack most recently in May 2014. Specifically, Jack indicated that an FCM would not be in compliance with the CFTC's prohibition that it not guarantee a customer against loss if it included a limited or non-recourse clause in a customer or non-customer account agreement. Jack indicated an FCM must have the quote-unquote absolute right at all times, quote, to look to funds in all accounts of a beneficial owner, including accounts that are under different control, as well as the right to call a beneficial owner for funds, end of quote. This requirement, said Jack, would preclude an FCM from restricting its ability to look for funds in different accounts of a beneficial owner that might be under different discretionary control, or from agreeing not to call a beneficial owner for more funds in an account that the owner may have allocated to a manager for that account. Additionally, Jack noted that all accounts of a single beneficial owner for the same account classification must be viewed together when considering margin funds available for distribution to any individual account. Jack indicated that an FCM may determine to call individual accounts of a beneficial owner managed by different account controllers separately. However, when paying out individual accounts, FCMs must ensure that such payments would not cause a beneficial owner for all its accounts of the same account classification to be under margin. Additionally, Jack set forth specific expectations for FCMs to evidence compliance with its new guidances. Specifically, FCMs must review and rectify existing customer and non-customer agreements for any language that is potentially inconsistent with the CFTC's prohibition of guarantees against losses, including express, limited, or non-recourse language, ensure their internal controls and procedures require all account agreements and other documents to comply with, quote, all industry rules and regulations, end of quote, including but not limited to the CFTC's prohibition of guarantee against losses, and ensure their policy and procedures mandate that no disbursement be made to a beneficial owner except in compliance with, quote, industry rules and regulations, end of quote. This includes requiring all accounts of a beneficial owner to be reviewed before paying out any individual account to ensure that the payout will not cause an aggregate margin deficiency and to maintain evidence of such review and determination. It's important that FCM take steps to follow Jack's guidances timely. Jack is a committee of representative CFTC authorized U.S. derivative exchanges and the National Futures Association. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Bridging the Week. As always, there is more information in each article and more articles on the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. I'm Gary DeWaal. Have a great week. In fact, have a great 2 weeks. And until the next edition of Bridging the Week in 2 weeks, ciao.